Hello everyone! Welcome to another episode of Bible Q&A. Today we're discussing why was Jesus rude to the elders contrary to God's law in Luke chapter 11 verses 37 to 54. We've already discussed why Jesus had to criticize the religious and political authorities of Judah and why that criticism caused controversy. But couldn't Jesus have used a different tone with them? He called the Pharisees vipers in Matthew chapter 3 verse 7, and we all know about his rant in Matthew chapter 23, where he just railed into all the religious leaders. Compare his attitude to that of Paul. When he called Ananias a whited wall in Acts chapter 23 verse 3, and Ananias reminded him that he was the high priest, Paul apologized, saying that he didn't know that he was the high priest and that elders were supposed to be respected, according to verses like Leviticus chapter 19 verse 32. Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head, and honor the face of the old man, and fear thy God, I am the Lord. It's a bit odd that Paul didn't know who the high priest was after so many years as a Pharisee, but he refrained from insulting him afterwards, and there are very few insults in the rest of his speeches in Acts. Why would Christ's apprentice be more respectful than Christ himself? Well, let's get the obvious reasons out of the way. Firstly, it was Jesus who was the elder when he was on earth. After all, he was alive before Abraham was born, according to John chapter 8 verse 58. Thus, he could decide whether he wanted to respect people or not. Plus, he knew that they were going to execute him falsely, according to John chapter 13 verse 1. Would you honor someone you knew was going to hurt you? Christ was also far more of a religious authority than they were. He was preaching as early as 12, and when he became an adult, his listeners noted that he taught with more understanding than that of the elders. And it came to pass, when Jesus had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. Matthew chapter 7 verses 28 to 29. It helped that he was the Son of God, according to Matthew chapter 3 verse 17, meaning that he had direct access to all the spiritual knowledge he could want. That was why he could disobey the Sabbath law in Matthew chapter 12 verses 1 to 8. He knew the purpose of the law, so he didn't actually have to follow it to the letter. Thirdly, there is obviously a limit to the idea of respecting one's elders. As it was said in Proverbs, the hoary head is a crown of glory, if it be found in the way of righteousness. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 31. We can't honor criminals and dictators just because they are older than we are. In fact, in the early church, according to 1 Timothy chapter 5 verses 19 to 20, members were encouraged to rebuke elders for their wrongdoing, provided they had enough evidence to back it up. Thus, the Pharisees did not deserve any kind of respect from Jesus. They took over the system God set up and corrupted it, according to Matthew chapter 21 verses 33 to 46. They were greedy, oppressive, and mean, and they themselves didn't respect widows or the poor, contrary to Zechariah chapter 7 verses 9 to 10. Execute true judgment, and show mercy and compassion every man to his brother. And oppress not the widow, nor the fatherless, the stranger, nor the poor, and let none of you imagine evil against his brother in your heart. That's why God planned to get rid of them, according to Matthew chapter 3 verse 10. And now also the axe is laid on to the root of the trees. Therefore every tree which bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down, and cast into the fire. Now, if a wicked old person has a good idea every once in a while, we shouldn't ignore it. As it was said in Matthew, the scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. Matthew chapter 23 verses 2 to 3. After all, if it came from someone good, you'd ordinarily follow it. However, when people with authority and influence do bad things, they should be called out. They shouldn't be defended just because the people criticizing them aren't as important or respected in society. In fact, as much as they are being criticized now, they deserve to be insulted even more, because they should know better. They should do better. They are the ones responsible for leaving behind a better society for the youth. And that is where I'm going to stop with this Bible Q&A. Why was Jesus rude to the elders, contrary to God's law, in Luke chapter 11 verses 37 to 54? It's because he was older than them, wiser than them, and kinder than them. And you don't respect people who want to hurt you. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.